All right. All right. We're live. We're here. I think it's episode 14. So welcome to the podcast. Today we have a pleasure of speaking with John Prince, the captain of all copywriters, the Klaviyo King, the email marketing master. We're excited to dive into his story, to listen to his insights, his perspectives, and without further ado, John, welcome to the Sauce Pod, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to do this.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So the first question, we just kind of want to, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, we just want to dive in and hear your backstory.
Yeah. So I grew up here in Canada. So I don't know where you guys are at, but I grew up in Ontario, a place called London, Ontario, kind of 2 hours from Toronto. Went to school here, did high school, did 7 years of university, actually. Completely irrelevant to what I'm doing now. So I did 5 years of biology, 2 years of teacher's college. And while I was in teacher's college, I was kind of looking for stuff to do on the side. That was right during COVID as well. So I was on Twitter, scrolling through, seeing what people were talking about, got into copywriting. By the time I graduated, I was making more doing this than I would as a teacher. So I stuck with it. And yeah, that's where I graduated in April of 2022. So last year.
Wow. So it's still pretty fresh, huh?
Yeah. I'm pretty new to this. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. And I saw, we met, kind of on the internet through Twitter. You released some fire on Twitter, and so I was like, man, this guy's releasing a lot of value, and I wanted to definitely reach out, and so I reached out, but then we have this podcast thing going, so I wanted to just vibe with you, hang out with you, get to know you, and we're kind of all in the same space. Sean and we also run a email marketing agency, and we just want to talk emails and e-commerce but yeah. So I don't know, Sean, do you have any questions to start off?
Yeah. Curious, what intrigued you about copywriting and why you chose that. And then kind of as you're traveling down that path, when did you decide to make it a business and kind of put your name behind it versus this is like a hobby for me?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to do business in general. So even while I was in school, I was like, one day I'm gonna, my long-term thing is I want to do business. I might maybe I'll be a teacher for a bit. So I went into science just thinking that's the job route. I'll get a job and then somewhere down the line, maybe when I'm 40 or 50, I'll get into business. I'll save up enough money to buy a business or something like that. It never really occurred to me that I could just start one from scratch on the internet. When I thought of business, I always just thought of buying a physical place, maybe a restaurant or whatever, and running a business that way. But I think, just seeing people on YouTube, seeing people on Twitter doing it kind of changed my perspective a little bit. So I think Twitter was really good for this. So I think around 2019, I got on Twitter and I was just following, went on a following spree. So I was just following a bunch of people, and then eventually I found some people who were doing business, doing podcasts together. And then you kind of just find the entire ecosystem. You find one person, and then you see that this person did a podcast with that person, and then you just find that entire set of people. So the first thing I did wasn't actually copywriting. I was actually just flipping stuff. So a lot of people on Twitter do that as well. So they would just find stuff that people have locally, or they would go to Walmart, buy a bunch of stuff, put it on Amazon, put it on eBay, that kind of stuff. So that was the first thing that actually clicked for me. So I was working at Burger King at the time, and I was just working the drive-thru. I was scrolling through Twitter on my phone. I was seeing that a lot of people were doing this. So I think I saw at the time pools, inflatable pools were doing really well. So people would buy inflatable pools from Walmart, sell it on eBay, and then they would make profit off that kind of stuff. So I was like, there's a Walmart down the street from here. Let me just go check it out after work. So then I just went, picked up a bunch of pools, and at the time I spent $300 on pools, and at the time that was scary to me. My heart was pounding at the checkout. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I spending? Because $300 is a lot to make at Burger King. I'd have to work for half a month at the time to make $300. So I was just blowing it all out on pools, even though I could have returned it and all that stuff was logically it still made sense, but I remember that being a scary step, actually taking that action. So I did it, put it on eBay, and I was and it actually worked. It started selling, and I was making more off of that than what I paid for. So then to me, that just caused a mindset shift where it was I listened to someone who knows what they're doing, and I just did it and it worked. And that just And it was almost like a high, and I was just like chasing more of that. I was like, if I just do what people say, if I just find people making money and just do what they say, I'm gonna make money too. So that just like changed my perspective. And then I was just flipping more stuff. Eventually, I got into the niche of like flipping smartphones. So people have like cracked phones, and then you can run like Facebook ads being like, I'll buy your cracked phone and that kind of stuff. And then you can like give them so I was just running these ads all across town, and I was like meeting up with people at Starbucks, and they would like sell me their phones. And then I would maybe like, I'd make like $100 profit off each phone. That's the thing. The problem with shipping in Canada is that, or the problem with flipping in Canada is that shipping is like really expensive here. So it's like $20 to ship even like the smallest thing. So I know you guys are in the States, right?
Yeah, we're in Texas.
Yeah, I like the people I know, like you guys have like really cheap shipping there. Like here, like shipping is just expensive, like Canada Post for whatever reason. So it's not really worth doing unless you're flipping like something that you can get like a high profit on. So a lot of the stuff that people were flipping, it wasn't really that big of a margin. So then once I got into phones, I was like, okay, I can make like $100 profit off this. So if I lose like $20 off that, it's not really a big deal. So phones was what was like really working for me for a bit. So I would meet up with like, it required like very little time. I would just meet up with people at Starbucks, grab, and then maybe like 3 people would show up, sell me their phones. I would put it up on eBay, and then those would sell. That was good enough for money. So I was making enough to quit Burger King. So that was my first goal. Just like, let me just make enough to quit Burger King. And then I was able to like focus on school more with all that extra time. So I was like perfect for what I needed at the time, but it wasn't really like, I wasn't really like passionate about it. I wasn't like excited to work or anything like that. It was just like, sweet. Like I don't have to go to Burger King. I don't have to like wear this weird uniform and just like stand there for like 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day or whatever. It was just way better. It was like lifestyle wise. I could just go to Starbucks, study, and then people show up and bring me their phones, and it just like fit perfectly. Wasn't really a long-term thing. But it did create that like business mindset. So I was just like, oh, if I was able to do this, I can pretty much do anything as long as I find the right person to teach me. So I was like trying different things on the side. For whatever copywriting, it was kind of just random. Like, I don't know if you guys know Daniel Throssell, but he's a pretty well-known copywriter. And literally just, I didn't know him really, but I knew that copywriting was a thing. Like I'd heard of it. I've seen people talk about it on Twitter. Never occurred to me that it was something I would do, but I saw a Facebook ad for one of Daniel's courses, and it was $150. And again, it was back to that thing. I was like, I'd never really spent that much on a course yet. I was just kind of like, the most I'd probably spent on a course was like $40 or $50 or something like that. So 150 somehow felt like a lot more. So I was just like really thinking about it. I'm like, is this worth it? But I'm like, I know this worked in the past. So let me just like do it again at a higher scale. So again, like now these days I spend like thousands of dollars on courses without really thinking about it. But at the time, 150 just felt like a lot. So I was thinking about it. I went to the park, just sat there for an hour thinking about whether or not I should buy this course. Eventually just pulled the trigger. It was like an outreach course. So he was teaching you how to make money as a copywriter on Upwork. So I was like, okay, let me learn outreach. So then I took that course, applied it just step by step, exactly what he said. I just did it. And I started getting replies. So every like 5 or 10 proposals I'd sent, like I would get one interested reply. And then I was like, oh, sweet. I was able to close clients that way. And then because the way he teaches it is that you write spec pieces. So for example, if someone posts a job for like a dog food brand and they want copywriting, you just write copy for a dog food brand and then send it to them. And then as an example of what you can do. So it's almost like a foolproof way of doing outreach. Like if they like that sample, then clearly you're going to do a good job for them. So it was kind of just like a self-fulfilling type of way to send proposals. So I was like, okay. So I wasn't nervous about like closing a client and then not being able to do the work. Because if they're willing to hire me, they clearly like my stuff. So started doing outreach that way. Just got better at copywriting just by doing that. So it's like slowly and surely, like I would get more replies to my proposals because I was getting better at writing copy while I was sending out those proposals. And then email marketing specifically, it just kind of happened organically. So eventually someone would reach out and then they would, for example, they needed help with Klaviyo. And then I'd be like, okay, well, I haven't used Klaviyo. So I just had that mindset of like, all I need is find a course on Klaviyo. And then Rob and Chase and those guys, they have like they have Klaviyo courses. So I just like closed the client, bought the course, followed it step by step, send them an audit, just did it. And then I was like, okay, if I just do it, it's going to work. And then started doing that and started closing clients for Klaviyo onto Upwork. Again, January of 2022 was when I started doing retainer stuff. So Currently I have 2 e-com clients on retainer, and then I have a few other clients that just kind of like hit me up here and there when they need email stuff done. So yeah, that's where I am at now.
That's awesome, man. It reminds me similar to ours, and like you were talking about flipping the pools. I used to flip books for Amazon FBA. I would go to Goodwill and just like buy books for like $2, and I got all into it. I got a scanner, and it would scan the books, let me know how much they like, the profit was at, and then I would buy the books, and then I would send them to Amazon's like warehouse. But I would send like 150 books, and I had like my own like bookstore under Amazon. So it was pretty cool. I think the most I made on a book, I bought it for like $3. I made $200, and it was like a textbook, so it worked out pretty cool. But I love the fact that you take all those courses, and like in the beginning it was a little scary, but like we're all about like courses. Anytime that like Robert Allen or Chase or anybody that like opens up a course, like we're just like, like listening to it, trying to check it out. But no, that's I was going to say something else. I forgot what I was going to say, but that's super cool.
Yeah, I really love the like entrepreneurial spirit too, that you like. I could see that in you when you started telling your story. And Sean and I talk about this a lot, when you just kind of like, it's not something that you asked for. It's just like in your life, you're just like, you feel it, and somehow, some way, sometime, something entrepreneurial is going to happen for you. You said, maybe you before you're 50 and buy a business, but we're always like churning up these ideas, like what can I turn into a business and stuff. And I just think that's super, like, there's just a certain type of person, that just has that like kind of spirit and drive in them. And typically, like I see with you, you're like very action oriented too. You're like, if I follow what this person says, I know the outcome is going to happen, but you actually have to do the work, right? It's not like I just read this thing and I didn't do anything, but it's just, I like that kind of drive that you have and that spirit that you have within you, because people will approach Sean and I sometimes with like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Should I go into business and do this? We're like, probably not. And then starting a business is like hard. Like, it's very, very challenging. So you got to have a lot of grit and tenacity, and like really just want to be able to, have autonomy and enjoy what you do, at least to a certain degree. You don't think you have to be super passionate about it, but as long as I think the passion comes after the doing. Once you, like when you start copywriting, you're probably okay at it and you're not super passionate about it, but as you get better, you get more validation of like, I'm getting more work in the door. People are really enjoying my copy. I feel like I'm growing in this field. I think then it can become something you're more passionate about because you're getting better at your craft.
Yeah, that's cool. Yes, on the courses, it's like, Sean and I we started off as like Shopify developers, and we're kind of building websites off of Shopify, and people were asking about email marketing, Klaviyo, and so I found Chase Diamond, bought the course, and like 2 months later, we get our first partnership with another agency, and they white labeled us underneath them, and we were there for a whole year. And I mean, it's just insane like that. And, by all means, I didn't know, everything about Klaviyo. I still don't. And we've been doing it for almost 2 years. And it was just enough confidence and just enough like information that I could go in there and just do it. But that's super cool. I think out of like all the things that you do, what would be the hard, like what is the hardest thing that has kind of been like doing what you do?
So right now I'm working towards like transitioning into an agency, like you guys are talking about. So up until now, I've been doing everything solo. So I think Upwork's almost like training wheels because it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Like you don't have to make a landing page. You don't need like a VSL. Like it's kind of just like plug and play. And so up until now, I've just been, so I've like fully focused on client fulfillment, basically. Like I didn't have to worry about sales. Like everyone's pretty much warm. So I have a good profile up there. So if someone hits me up, they're already pretty much sold. They already know they need an email marketer, that kind of stuff. So I think making the transition into the agency is like what I've been working on since, probably since October. And I guess I just don't have much of there's just not really an urgency to it because it's like, oh, I make good money with the 2 clients I have now. So it's just kind of been like kind of like a grind almost, where it's like, oh, I'm kind of working on this in the background, but it's just, I guess scaling is because the 2 clients I have right now, doesn't take a ton of time to fulfill those clients, but 3 I know would be a lot. So if I wanted to take on more clients, I would have to transition into an agency. So I think doing the work and doing the heavy lifting to actually like be fully self-sufficient off of Upwork is my next challenge at this point. So
okay, yeah, no, that's good, because like we're like Sean and I, we're a team, and so like I know it's like very difficult to just be a one-man show and having to deal with like multiple clients. Yeah, and I read this book called Rocket Fuel, and it kind of helps with like 2 partners, where one is the visionary and the other one is like the integrator. And so it's like, and it could also be like CEO, COO kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the visionary integrator. And so I kind of play the visionary role, and then Sean B plays like the integrator role, where like, I can come up with the ideas, but then he like is an awesome executor. You know what I mean? He like executes. And so like, for you, if that's something that you want to go down that path, and kind of work on that agency side, I think like reading that book and checking out and like where you fit in there, visionary and integrator, and then like finding that person to kind of help you build that agency, because I know it can be very difficult. And honestly, like most of our success, or I would say maybe Sean, would you say like 90% of our success is Upwork, and then like 10% is like referrals, something like that. And so we are on Upwork, and that's where we have found all of our clients and all of our work and the experience that we've had. So it's definitely a grind for sure.
Yeah, I think when you said Upwork's like training wheels, I think that was a really good analogy, because that's where we got a lot of our early success, and still find clients there every now and then. But once you go outside of that, you really have to do more of the lead generation and things like that. It can become a lot more challenging. But I think you're doing it the right way too, because you've been active on Twitter. You're kind of building an audience, and that's one thing I think that we lack, is just that marketing presence of our, whether it be personally or our brand of Electric Sauce, but really personally, because I'm sure you'll probably have a lot of good people coming through the door just through your Twitter presence. So that's going to be a huge growth driver for you moving forward. So congrats on that, on like kind of building that up. That's something that is kind of on the back burner for us, that we want to pull more to the forefront, is like, how do we execute on fulfillment and then also execute on our own marketing and things like that. So, being able to carve out time for that. Curious, as far as like copywriting, when I was doing some of the copywriting for our agency, I found that like those early morning hours were like they're prime time for pretty much everything, but like for copywriting specifically, like I could bang out like so much copy if I, worked in those early morning hours versus like in the afternoon and the evening. It was just like so much more difficult to get out like good copy. Do you have like that window that you try to like get in and write really well?
Yeah, early for me as well. For some reason, I think just getting to work early in the morning and being like, oh, I have the whole day ahead of me. Like I just have my coffee. There's no rush. I can just like work and just not worry about, is it time for dinner? Is it time to like, go do shopping or something like that? Just not having to think about anything else. Like I just have the whole day ahead of me. Just having that mentality helps me actually, because the thing with copywriting is that I find it's hard to like cram it. So if I have like 1 hour to write copy for something, I find it very hard to do that, because I'm like, I'm more focused on getting it done on time than I am on, is this actually good? Am I actually saying the things I need to be saying in the copy? Whereas if I start early in the day, even if I have enough time, even if it only takes me 3 hours, for some reason that illusion of like, oh, I have all day to do this, there's no rush, just improves the quality of the copy by a lot. Even so, as opposed to like writing at like 7 p.m. where it's like, oh, it's almost the end of the day, like I have to get this done within like a certain window. I think just mentally getting started early just works for me. And it's also just, it requires a lot of concentration to write well. So I think just using that creative energy early in the day, and then later in the day, I can do more like chill work. Like there's some things where I can just do like easily, like for example, you guys mentioned Twitter. Like for Twitter comes pretty easily to me. So I can do that at the end of the day. It's like no problem. But like copywriting, the actual work and client fulfillment, yeah, definitely early in the day for me.
Absolutely.
Do you have any, do you have like a specific routine? I get real nerdy with routines, and I'm always trying to tweak mine. And I was curious if you had like your own.
Yeah, so I like the tomato timer, like the Pomodoro technique, the 25-5. So I like using those. So for my 5-minute breaks, I like listening to like a long form podcast. So like a 2-hour podcast, like an interview, that type of thing. So I just watch those in like 5-minute increments. So I just like put on a podcast, listen to it for 5 minutes, pause it, get to work, and every like 2 hours or so, I'll take like a walk. So I'll go for like a walk around my neighborhood without headphones or anything. Sometimes I'll listen to music, but just to clear my head, just go for a walk, sit back down, write. And for some reason, I get most of my stuff, the good stuff, done before lunch. For whatever reason, like after I had my first like meal, like it's just, I find it way harder to work. But so hopefully I get most of my stuff done by like 2 p.m. And then I have lunch, go for another walk, and then if I need to write more copy, I will. But hopefully by this time I'll get most of like the grunt work done, and then I can just focus on like the chill stuff, maybe take calls or maybe tweet a little bit, write a few threads, that kind of stuff.
That's cool, man.
And
Yeah.
do you find like that that as your copywriting has progressed, do you still kind of go back over to second or a third time and like have tweaks? Like I found that like that was kind of my process, was like I would just get something out and then like I'd come back to it, whether it be an hour later or a day later. And then that's when I could really like tweak it and see it with fresh eyes. Is that kind of your process, or are you able to like kind of get it all done at once?
So I used to like worry more about like the specific word, like did I get this like sentence perfect? But like as I've realized it's more about like just the concept behind whatever you're writing. So if there's like a specific testimonial that does well, I would just try to get more of those kind of testimonials. So for example, one brand I work for now, one of the testimonials said, so I was skeptical about this product, but I tried it and here's what it did for me. And then all I did was like screenshot that testimonial, and I was like, here's a testimonial from a skeptical customer. And that email did really well. So now I know anytime I get a testimonial like that, I'm just going to turn it into an email. So now it's like, okay, so now I should put that in the post-purchase flow. Like, were you skeptical about our product? Send in a review, like telling us why you were skeptical, and like what made you make the decision, and like what was your experience after trying the product. And then now every time we get another testimonial like that, I just know that email is going to do well. So I'm a lot less stressed about like the exact wording I use in the email, as opposed to just getting one out there using like a validated concept, something that's the good thing about like working for a brand for a long time, as opposed to like if I just get hired one time to write one landing page. Okay, I can do that, but I haven't worked with this brand long enough to know exactly what's going to work. Whereas if I've sent an email 6 months ago, chances are if I send a similar one today, it's probably going to work just as well. So I rely a lot on just what's worked in the past.
Makes sense.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I know that like all this AI has pretty much like broken the internet, especially with Chat GPT. Like, what are your thoughts on AI, and are you using it as a copywriter, or are you against it? Like I see both sides of it, especially on Twitter. I was just curious about your thoughts.
Yeah, I have used it, and like sometimes I just forget about it. So I like the research portion. I like to use it a lot. So if I'm writing the mechanism for something, if I'm just like, this is going to help you out because, and then I would just kind of leave that blank, like, oh, I haven't researched that yet. If I just like ask like Chat GPT, like, oh, okay, why are people having this problem? And then it will just give me an explanation for that problem, and then I can just kind of like plug it into the copy. I haven't really used it to write the copy. I would just kind of like leave blanks in my copy intentionally where I should be doing more research. And then I would kind of get ChatGPT to like kind of fill in those blanks in my research. So it's been useful for that kind of stuff. But yeah, sometimes I straight up forget about it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I have this thing, and it's just going to save me like a ton of time.
Right.
That's awesome. Do you have like a preference for, like I just assume as a copywriter, your preference would be like for a really long form email. But do you have a preference on like what you prefer, right? Whether it be long form or like more just like direct response. Yeah, just curious your preference on that.
So I'm kind of messing around with this. Like I've tried both, where it's like mostly text, and then I've tried other ones with like more like images and more design. Yeah, so I'm still trying to like, I'm curious what you guys found with this, but like I've tried both, and I've found they both work. I don't know. I guess maybe one just converts different segments of audiences, but like I'm like, especially with going the agency route, I think the copy stuff comes more naturally to me. So if I go more of the design route, I would definitely like have someone on to help me with the design. So like I'm less I'm just thankful that they both work, because the copywriting has been the kind of more text-based emails has been like working well. And I'm like, as long as it's working, I'll keep doing it. But if down the road I have a client who's more interested in design, I would want to have like the connection with the designer. I can just kind of like loop in and collaborate that way. I don't know. What have you guys found?
Yeah, I think there's a balance between the two. I kind of prefer the text-based because for two reasons, mainly because as an email guy, I want it to hit the inbox. I don't want it to go to the promotions. Definitely don't want it to go to spam, obviously. So like text-based, if it's text only, like it's almost guaranteed it's going to hit your direct inbox. And two, like the purpose of an email is for you to not only open it, but to click through to the website. And so for that curiosity factor, there's no images. It's just text. It's literally just like, here's some copy and click through to the website. And I feel like that's really effective because so I think on the agency side, like I prefer text only. The clients prefer the graphics. They love a beautiful email, that's all really heavily image based. But so I could see both sides, but like I think the graphics are just make you feel good. But like if you see the graphics, you understand the purpose of the email, but that email isn't what you're looking for in that moment, you're not going to click through to the website. Whereas with the copy, it could just be real short, sweet, to the point, and you kind of still have that curiosity factor to click through, land on the website, and it's like, cool, as an email marketer, I did my job. And so that's just kind of my preference.
Yeah, I like designs, but it can be like, I think brands kind of overdo it at times. They get real picky, and it's just like, does it really matter? Like, I mean, it just gets a little silly sometimes. And we've had some clients in the past where they're just like extremely picky about it. And it's just like, at the end of the day, similar to what Sean was saying, it's like email is just for human to human communication, right? And just like getting that information to another human. And so if it's like you spend so much time in the design stuff, it just like it just takes more time. It's like more resources, and so we do have a balance of designs and text only. But yeah, like I do enjoy the text only because it's a lot quicker and it's just more copy. But yeah, I don't know if we answered your question, but
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of like even the raw and authentic look of like the mostly text and some images, I think that does well too, because I kind of think of Facebook ads where like back in the day people used to use like very high production Facebook ads, and then all of a sudden some guy will post a selfie and that's like the ad, and that one just does really well just because it stands out. So if someone's inbox is full of like designed shiny emails, and all of a sudden you have one with like text, a picture of the product, some more text, and like a button, it's like it just looks a lot more authentic. It looks like a real conversation between like two people. So I think it's a good way to stand out in the inbox for sure, because like a lot of brands just aren't doing it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
And I've also gotten good responses on the client side. I've never seen a client reply to a graphic based email and be like, oh, this is why I'm so loyal to your brand. But I see that all the time on the text only side. They're just like, it feels so personal that it really touches them. And they're like, this is why I buy from you and will continue to do so. And I'm just like, I'm still continually just surprised. And I'd love to see that when a brand owner, forwards me that email and is like, oh, this text only did so well. And they kind of have a little bit more buy-in at that point, even if they traditionally have loved the graphic, the really imaged heavy ones. But yeah, Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
100%.
I like them too because it's like I think Chase emailed like I got an email from Chase, but I literally thought it was from him, like to me. I was like,
Yeah.
I had to like wait, but he's like getting real good at it. So yeah,
Mhm.
you got me. But you mentioned Robert Allen earlier, and I noticed that like you push a lot, you push his course, and we took his course too, and that was like an amazing course. And the reason why I love it so much was it really disrupted the whole. I guess like the amount of emails that were in like the welcome flow. And I was curious on your take on that, but it just blew my mind when he was like, yeah, 10 emails. Everybody else is doing 3.
Yeah, so that was the first Klaviyo course I took. So I didn't actually know that was like unusual. So I was just like, oh, this is just what a welcome flow is. So when I started pitching it to clients, they were like, what? Like 15 emails in the welcome flow? And I was just like, oh, is this weird? Like, this is just what I learned. So I was like, yeah, we can do 15. So like, because I took the course and because I was like, if I had just come up with 10 emails and like a client like pushed back like that, I would have maybe backed off. But because like I knew Rob and I knew what he was doing, I was just like, I was able to kind of like explain to the client, yeah, this works. Like you can, as long as, because the thing with the welcome flow is that like that's when they're the warmest. That's when they're the most likely to buy. So you might as well do everything you can to get that first purchase. So because Rob explains it like that, because Rob had like credibility in my mind, I was able to actually like answer the client's objections. Whereas like, yeah, it seemed crazy to them. I had no idea it was crazy. That's all I knew. So I was like, oh, welcome flow is supposed to have 10 emails or 15 emails or whatever. So then I started closing clients for the welcome email, and it worked well as a good project because I was charging per email, so I was able to get like a high priced project right out the gate, and then as they got value out of that email, they would come back and ask to like be on retainer, and I would start like doing campaigns for them. So yeah, it was a good way to kind of get my foot in the door, show that I know what I'm doing, write a lot of copy for them that converts, and then kind of close them on like a retainer down the line or more projects down the line.
That's cool. And like you stuck with like one flow and was able to work on that one project, especially if it's like 10 emails, it's going to take you some time. And so like all the clients that you've had before, like they're all text based. Like what if they wanted designs? Do you have some design skills?
Yeah, I do mostly text. So I use like Canva. So
Okay.
if I need to like, I would just ask them to send me all their assets. So like all their like images that they have. And if I need to put like text over an image, I would just like throw it onto Canva, do like very basic design. But like I'm kind of upfront with the client. Like I'm more conversion focused. So I'm just focused on like sending out emails that get conversions. Design is kind of just like, what is it? Like form follows function. So I kind of just follow that route where it's like the purpose of the email is do this. This is what we're trying to communicate through the email. And I'll throw in images as necessary to kind of like supplement what the text is saying. But yeah, I've been more focused on like that homemade look that we were kind of talking about, where it just is mostly text and then an image as it makes sense, sort of. And GIFs as well. GIFs work pretty well.
Yes, I do like GIFs.
And I'm curious, like, do you have you had any experiences where maybe a brand owner doesn't necessarily value copy, and how you get them to transition to understand the value of copy, and if there are any industries that are more like, I guess, that are more willing to value copy versus like other industries that may just be like, well, I value more the images and the graphics, and the copy kind of comes second to that. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
So with Upwork, I haven't really encountered those people because the type of person that's going to reach out to me is like looking specifically for the kind of emails that I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I send proposals like out to people who've posted jobs, I just kind of like filter it out. So I search Klaviyo and I search copywriting. So if they mention those two things in the job posting, they're probably looking for the kind of emails that I would write, which is more copy focused. So like that intersection of like copywriting and Klaviyo, and then in between is kind of just like the kind of emails that I'm writing. So it works out well that way.
Cool. And are there like industries specifically that you're writing more for at this point? Or is it kind
not
of
on
broad?
purpose, but I found that I'm writing for health brands just because I guess it makes sense for copy because when you're giving like health advice or like valuable content related to health, it just makes I find that audience, you're able to like a health conscious audience, there's a lot of stuff you could potentially write for them. So even a lot of things like you asked about routines. So like they're really into like daily routines. Like how can this product fit into my daily routine? So it's like, oh, here's like 5 ways to, you know, be more motivated, or like very like content based images. And then in the end being like, by the way, our product here might help you get more motivated. Here's where, and it's just kind of like transitioning into that soft pitch where you're like providing value. It's almost not even like health. It's just kind of like self-improvement. So someone who cares about health probably cares about like self-improvement in general. So it's just like giving them content about how they can improve their life and then making a soft transition into the product. I find that does really well.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
You were speaking of your like starting an agency eventually. Is that something like niching towards like the medical industry? Is that something that crossed your mind?
Not so much. I think because I don't know, because I think I would set up like a general agency, and in the outreach I might maybe like niche down into like more like the health brands, that kind of stuff. But I think that's just something I would have to test out. Like I haven't really decided yet.
And I know for us, like when we first started our agency, like almost 2 years ago now, like the first thing that we learned was like, obviously you got to know your emails, the flows, the campaigns, kind of know Klaviyo in and out. And the second thing was like, you're going to need a designer pretty quickly too, because a lot of clients care about designs. And then the third thing was going to be, you know, once your designs are really intact, you're probably going to want a good copywriter, because that's going to take some time if you're doing that yourself as an agency owner. And I'm curious, as you like move towards, you know, having your own agency and maybe look to bring on copywriters, how do you, I guess, what do you have like a criteria or a way of kind of judging what the difference between good copy and just like okay copy?
Yeah, so the plan now as I transition into the agency is to take, so right now I work with 2 clients as a freelancer. So the plan at the moment is to close 2 clients through the agency and then let my current clients know that I'm now an agency. If you want to keep working together, you can like come in through the agency. And I know for sure I can handle 2 clients on my own. But then once it goes beyond that, I'll have to get someone on board to kind of start outsourcing some of the work. So I kind of, basically my answer to that is like, I'll probably start out the way that I'm doing it now, just as like solo freelancer style, and then work my way into outsourcing as it makes sense.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. I was curious about, this is like more into like the flows. I was curious, like, what was your favorite flow?
I think it is the welcome flow, just for the same reason that I was talking about. Because for me, it's just fun to do all that, like to write. Like it's almost like a challenge. Like I have to come up with like 15 emails to write. So it's just like, it's like putting a puzzle together where it's like, it usually means I just signed a client too. So I'm still like that rush of like a new client. It just feels good. And then, I'm like, I have 15, I quoted them 15 emails, so now I need to like come up with like 15 email ideas, and then doing that initial round of research for the client. Like, I don't know, it's almost like everything's just kind of happening at once. It's always like, it's always the flow I enjoy writing the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the welcome flow a lot.
Yeah. And you mentioned kind of that research phase. What does that look like for you when you first get a client and kind of doing that due diligence to start writing those copies?
Yeah, so Daniel Throssell, who I mentioned earlier, he's the one that sold like the $150 Upwork course. He also has like a market research course, which I took. I think this was probably the first like high ticket course I bought. I think it was like $1,500, but it was entirely just on like how to do research for copywriting. So his process is kind of like using Reddit, using the internet, using surveys. So he just like lays out so he has like hour-long modules where it's just like him sitting there, sharing a screen, doing research for a client. And the entire course is just research. So that was like my first exposure to doing research. So it was one of those situations where like the first time I closed like a high-paying client, I was just like, I just reinvested some of that into the market research course. And then I just kind of learned research. So I'm big on just kind of like learning as I go. So a lot of times I would close a client, and then I would use that money to like buy a course that's going to like teach me how to like deliver for the client. So a lot of like how I learned was just doing things that way. And then again, this was the first time I'd really like done that kind of research where it was like oh, like I'm actually learning how to do research. Before that, it was just kind of like intuitive. I would just write for clients where I kind of already knew what to say. But then the first time I closed a client, we're like, oh, I don't actually understand this market. Then I just kind of took a course on research, learned how to do research, learned how to write for a market that I know nothing about. And then, yeah, so I think it's called Market Detective. So that's the process I use. And it just goes over like Reddit research, like Amazon research. Like he has like a whole thing of like how to do research for like a market that you know nothing about. So I just completely followed his process there.
That's really cool. Yeah, that could be super valuable for like new copywriters coming around or anyone that doesn't know how to do the research, because I was always super curious about that myself.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of I don't know if you've heard of Dan Coe. I just recently started like following him, and man, he's blowing up so fast. I think I saw his YouTube. It was like 124. I think it's like 190 now. So he's definitely like just moving. And I just recently bought his 2-hour writer course. It was like $150, and I got that. And man, it is like a lot of like you were saying, research and really like understanding, like finding a tweet or finding like a little article, and then being able to like pick it apart and just like take other stuff and put it into this like Notion board and it like this like second brain, and it's just it's a lot to take in, but I'm having like some fun really trying to like dive into that, and I want to be able to use that for us, you know what I mean, for myself, but then kind of promote myself, but in tandem, you know, promote the agency as well. And it's funny is because like it makes me think like there's so many like agencies out there, but like we're not really like trying to get super huge like structured or any like massive agency. We want like maybe 10 clients, you know what I mean? Like, and there's just like, we're good, you know what I mean? It's like there's more pie for everybody else. Let's just get our 8 to 10, and then, you know, everybody else is good. So it's pretty cool to be able to think about it that way.
Yeah, there's plenty of brands out there. There's a lot of opportunity for everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious about your like in terms of onboarding, when you first hire or get hired on, and it's like part of that research phase. Do you do you have like a little like waiting point, like maybe 2 weeks, to where you actually really try and absorb the information from and like learn about the brand and then kind of bring them on? Because we were talking to Chase one time, and he was saying that for their agency they wait 30 days before they actually like start the payment, you know what I mean? And so it's like a 30 days to really like onboard the new client, and I was just curious if you had one.
That's interesting. No, I just kind of build it into the deadline for the first project. So I kind of give them the quote, and then I give them how long it's going to take. And I just kind of let them know the first project always takes the longest, because this is when I do like the bulk of the research that I'll probably like end up doing. I do like weekly research for campaigns, but like in terms of like understanding the market, really like digging deep into like their desires, their problems, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I spend like a few days just doing that. And that, for some reason, that part's fun to me. I just kind of like, it just feels like I'm just going through like internet rabbit holes where like I'm just like scrolling through Reddit, clicking through like the top posts, and just like, yeah, that part's just fun to me. It's almost like the copy kind of just figures itself out when you really understand the market. You just kind of figure out exactly what they need to hear, where it's like, oh, you have this problem, and then here's our solution, and then like everything in between. You just kind of figure out where things go. It's almost like a puzzle piece. And yeah, so that part's just, that's just what I enjoy the most. And
cool.
Because, so I just let them know, first project's going to take me like a month. I might spend like the first week just doing research, and then I would kind of slowly kind of ramp into the copy. And then
cool.
Once that's done, everything else just kind of like flows out pretty easily from there.
Okay, cool. We were talking about courses. I was curious if you dove into the what was it? I think it's called Copy MBA. I think Chase was a part of that one. Did you happen to?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it though.
Yeah.
You guys found it good?
We have it. I just barely scratched the surface. Sean, did you go through it?
It's good. Yeah, it's written by kind of one of the people that wrote for his agency for the first couple of years, and then went on to start his own agency. His name's like Cardinal Mason on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good. It's just pretty much just Mason kind of walking you through it. It's real low key, like, no fluff, just him kind of showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly of copy and how to just really get it out on paper, different, psychology and frameworks. So yeah, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we're at exactly 45 minutes now. I don't know if you had any more questions, Sean, or John, if you had any questions for us, but I had some, like, I saw you had you were looking at a motorcycle. I was curious if you actually went for it.
So it's winter right now here in Canada, but July is when I'm planning to grab that. So yeah, I've always wanted a motorcycle. So I never had a garage until this year. Like, I lived in an apartment before this, so I would have had nowhere to really like keep it.
Sure.
So yeah, in January I moved into a new place. Now got a garage. So
Nice.
Once the snow clears out and in the summer, yeah, it's the plan.
Cool. Yeah. It was a nice motorcycle. I don't know if you're going to get that exact one, but it was pretty nice. And I also found your sleeping hack. I was curious about those bulbs. It's like you can like set the bulbs for time, and it makes it look like it's like the sun's going down and going up. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so you can. It's the Philips Hue bulb. So it's just you put it in like regular light bulbs. They connect to your phone. So I don't set an alarm. So I just kind of get up whenever I get up. That's
cool.
Cool thing about like working for myself. So I just set the lights to turn on at a certain time. So if I need more sleep, I'll sleep through it. But usually that's enough to kind of like wake me up. So it's a good way to wake up at a certain time. But like if I need more sleep, I'll sleep through it. Like, because I can sleep through sound, but for some reason, light just wakes me up. So like I can sleep through like a noisy, if someone's like making a ton of noise downstairs, like that doesn't bother me. I can sleep right through that. But light just wakes me up easily. So I can't sleep with the lights on. So when the lights turn on, I just get up. And if I sleep through that, that means I really need the sleep. So I'll just like sleep until I get up. So
That's cool. Really self-aware, and you like listen to your body just to, it's smart. I've been, again, kind of back on the routine. I've been kind of tweaking it as I go, because you always hear like wake up and meditate and go do this and do push-ups and do this and do that. And it's like, and Sean was kind of talking to me about it, and he was saying like Alex Hormozy was like, man, just like get up, get your coffee and get to work. And I was just like, all right, I was like playing with the idea. And so I started listening to Dan Coe, and he talks about a similar thing, like, get up, I drink a glass of water, I got some vitamins, I go walk my dog, and then there's like a coffee shop that's just like down the road. And so I walk to the coffee shop, grab my coffee, come back home, and I'm ready to work. You know what I mean? And it's just enough like movement to get me going. And like I get my coffee, the dog's, being walked, I get, I'm walking. So it's like, getting my steps in or whatnot. And so I find it like going that route a little better, because like when I was doing all those other things, I felt like it was like more anxiety because I wasn't finishing those other things. And then I was like pushing off work for a longer time when I was like, I want to like get to work. I want to get my day going. You know what I mean? So, so far, like the walking is doing really good.
Yeah. If there's a theme I'm seeing through this pod episode, it's walking. And I've been hearing more and more just about the simplicity of walking and just kind of like letting your head clear, and
nice.
Whether you're listening to a podcast or nothing at all, and just kind of like letting things process. And so, yeah, if you're out there, make sure you're walking.
Yeah, you got to walk. And Dan, he talks about that. It's like if you're like forcing yourself to like work, you're not allowing your brain to really kind of unfold and like, absorb your natural creativity. You know what I mean? And so it's like if you're just constantly so rigid, I feel like you're kind of missing some stuff there. You know what I mean? And so the fact that you like don't even have an alarm, and that you just naturally let yourself wake up, that's badass. But I'm good on the questions, man. Sean, are you good?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, like outside of copywriting, and what kind of other interests, and what keeps you going when you're not copywriting.
So I'm kind of new to this. So I just graduated. Like up until now, I would have said school. So like I was busy with school, but I think now now I'm kind of figuring that out, because I just graduated. Now this is life. Like I have work to do. I have like a place to stay at. And now it's like, okay, like maybe I could get into guitar. I could get into a sport. Like I don't, yeah. So I'm like, right now, I think I'm just in the phase of like trying different things and seeing what I like. I'm just like, it almost feels like, oh, this is adult life now. Like up until now, I've been in school, living like a student life, kind of doing work on the side. But now it's just like, oh, like this is like, I have like an adult income. I have like certain times when I can work. I can set my own schedule, figure out what I want to do. But I do like hosting a lot. So like I like having people over. I like board games like that. Like I like having a solid social life. So that kind of stuff I find enjoyable. But definitely trying to get into like more hobbies and seeing what I'm into.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is cool. It's a really good phase to be in. You just have a beginner's mind with everything and get to be curious and see what you enjoy. So that's cool.
Cool, guys.
Sweet.
Well, thanks for watching. And we will come back for episode 15. Later.